Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Homeschool Support on Facebook Live. Today we're outside, and I have my son with me. So we're going to be talking about, last week I really spoke to the fact that with the current circumstances the way they are, that we're a little more isolated than normal, and we're absolutely taking in much more digital media, a lot more screen time, whether you're doing school online or working from home online, or just coping with the stress and anxiety by, watching movies and TV shows and stuff like that, which is understandable. I'm doing it too. But we want to make sure that we're counteracting that by bringing balance by being outside in nature. So, here's why this is important to me. First, I just want to tell you why it's important to me, why it should be important to everybody, and then we're going to talk about ways that you can do this very easily. So I grew up, I am not a country girl by any means. I love the country, but I grew up in the city of Reading in a row home with a typical postage stamp sized yard. I was still outside a lot, and I also was at parks all the time. I was always drawn to water, especially. I still am. I find it relaxing and soothing and therapeutic. So I always found puddles and lakes and rivers, and usually got in trouble for going swimming with my clothes on. Um, anyway, so I grew up in the city, had a very fond love of nature. I live by a busy road. Sorry, you're going to hear a little bit of traffic, but that's okay. Um, of very love of nature and being outside, playing outside. And then I became a mom. And I still loved being outside, but apparently I wasn't making it quite as much of a priority initially as I should have. When my son here was probably, I want to say about 3, maybe going on 4. It was rainy outside, and I thought, oh, this is like perfect. Let's go find puddles. We're going to go dig up worms. And we went outside, rain boots, all set, ready to go. And I said, hey, do you want to go look for some worms? And he looked at me like I had 3 heads. He wanted nothing to do with worms. He wanted nothing to do with mud. And I just thought, what did I do to my child? He doesn't want to get messy outside. So this was a big wake-up call for me that I needed to make it a little bit more of a priority to be outside in nature so that he learned to embrace it too. That led me to find a program called Tinker Garden, and maybe you're familiar with it. I was a leader for about a year. I did 4 seasons. You may even know me from there. I know I've seen some of you come into the library, where you incorporate children's literature and activities outside in a group setting. And I loved that. It was great. It was a really good launching point for me, and I'm going to talk about Tinker Garden a little bit later. They have a great mission and a great resource for anybody. And after that, I think we kind of outgrew it a little bit. I work in a library, I do homeschooling, so I'm kind of coming across lots of children's literature on my own. And we had kind of a core group of people that were coming to every single season, and I knew what they were interested in. And so I kind of broke off from that and did my own thing. So I have been doing that, and I mentioned this before. I call it forest school. I'm not a forest school leader. That is an actual association. That's something I would like to look into in the future. I just haven't yet. But we call it forest school just because for us, it fits what we do. And I've been doing that for, I guess, about 2 or 3 years now. And I typically have, including parents and siblings and everything, it's around like 25 to 30 people. And we usually meet every season. And I put together the lessons myself now. And we get outside and we do cool things with science and technology and art and engineering and math. So it's all STEAM related, but it's all outside. And we're also oftentimes focusing in on one aspect of nature, whether that's an animal or something like bubbles. I love to talk about bubbles, like sinking and floating, stuff like that. So that's why this became a huge, important part of our life. And we noticed that, especially now, we've been busy the last few weeks, and we haven't been outside as much as normal. And boy, do we feel it. Our anxiety, we just have like this anxious energy because we're cooped up inside. So we need to kind of recalibrate and make sure that we're making it more of a priority ourselves. So I'm going to talk about different ways that you can do that. The reason why this is important for everybody, I found a really great kind of sum up of from a Harvard professor, and she gave 6 reasons. There's much more than 6, but the one is sunshine. Vitamin D is essential. Yes, we need to wear sunscreen. Our skin doesn't like the sun so much. But vitamin D is going to help boost our immunity. It's going to promote better sleep. It also helps with bone development. Many body processes rely on that. The other one is exercise. Obviously, that seems pretty obvious. One interesting thing is that there's a lot of studies that have been done that tell us that children play harder and they go further outside than they do inside because they're not held back by any kind of, there's no walls. They have more freedom to run around, and so they do exert more energy and they get more out of it because it's more active. Executive function is another big thing. It's going to help you prioritize, negotiate, multitask, problem solve. It's taking risks, getting unstructured playtime. That's extremely important to children. And then taking risks itself is a whole point because we learn as much from failure, if not more, as success. So failure is important, and the only way you're going to fail is if you take calculated risk. So they earn confidence, bravery by taking those risks. Socialization. This is big for us for our forest school that normally meets together. Right now we are meeting virtually because it's such a big group of people. It's just not possible to meet in person under the current pandemic conditions. Were you to potentially feel comfortable with another family or something like that to get outside and get your socialization that way, for sure, being outside socializing right now is the safest way to do it outdoors. It's the lowest risk possible. And I'm not saying that I'm recommending that necessarily, but everybody's going to have their own a level of comfort. And if that is something that you feel comfortable with, I think it's a much better idea than, say, getting together indoors. So maybe that's a possibility. I just really have been recommending, especially to all of my families in forest school and everything, that there's very good open communication. If you have visited family or something like that, and there's even a small amount of risk that you potentially could have come into contact with COVID-19 or somebody that had it, be open about that and maybe hold off for a couple weeks. Use common sense. If someone in your small pod, that's what most people are calling it, like a little pod, say you get a pod for being outside, if one of the people feels better having masks, consider leaning towards the more cautious person. That has kind of been our go-to and what I've been giving advice if asked, to go with the most cautious person and let that sort of be your guide in the situation. Again, very personal choice. Not something I'm actually recommending per se, but just it's a lot better than, say, meeting up inside. So outside, you have the open air. It's been proven that that's a much lower risk. So socialization could be a benefit even during the pandemic. And then, of course, appreciation for nature. Our kids, they're going to learn how to appreciate the earth. They're going to learn how to appreciate what they have, because everything that we have comes from the earth. So even bringing our life indoors, if you have an appreciation for the earth and the resources that we get from it, they're going to show a greater appreciation for the things that they have. And maybe instead of throwing away our old toys, we give them to be used by another kid and continue their life. They're going to appreciate recycling. And I'm going to talk about ways to kind of incorporate that. And just taking care of this beautiful home that we have, and how important is that. Of course, we want to instill that in our children. the next upcoming generation, right? So very important. So I have my son here, and I already spoke to the fact that he used to not like mud at all. He didn't want to touch it at all. So, Bud, can you come over? So now, how old are you?
7.
Yeah? And you like playing outside, right? What are your favorite things to do outside?
I like going mud sledding. We have a sled right over there right now.
Yeah, he likes going mud sledding. So,
I like also bringing toys outside.
yep, that's a great way to get outside. Bring things that you would normally use inside, just bring them outside, right? What else? You like when we learn about animals, like when we do, like we've learned about spiders and then we made a spider web and stuff like that. You like that, right? And how do you like to play with mud now? Do you get covered from head to toe?
No.
No. How do you like to play with mud?
Just with toys.
Yeah. So he usually uses tools still. He's still not a big fan of mud, and that's okay. Every kid's sensory level of what they're going to feel comfortable with is going to be a little bit different. All right, Bud, thank you. So some of the tools that we use are, his favorites are like kitchen tools outside. It's a great way to get kids involved in playing in mud. We also always have tools like shovels and stuff like that. Pails, or I have old pots and pans that I keep in our shed. We bring those out. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of water. You need water to make mud. That's half the fun, is playing with the water to make the mud. As he said, he goes mud sledding now. We have our bank in our yard, which thankfully we don't care about that much. It gets muddy when it rains, and so he pours more mud on and he takes his sled down the hill as if it was snow. He loves that. Some other tools that we use very often are a bug catching jar. Now we just have a jar with holes on top. You can also buy little bug catching kits at the dollar store. That's where this stuff came from. These are actually tools for sand. We just bought that. And these are like kid gardening tools. They're a great thing to have around. Yep. Yeah, he wanted me to tell you that this year we used this jar for praying mantis babies. We found egg sacs in our garden. And so we borrowed one and we kept it nice and safe, and we had lots of baby praying mantises, which I put a video up of on the library website. We also have little pickers, tweezers. Big tweezers. You can also find those at the dollar store. Because Mac doesn't love touching dirty things, again, that's fine. He has gardening gloves. Another good thing to do is to have, if you're doing specifically mud play and you have a kid that maybe isn't a huge fan of getting messy, have a towel nearby. That way they feel comfortable to wash their hands off as they play. Some other things that we use to play, and this is going into a little bit of more like Waldorf, Montessori. I lost my we have wooden peg dolls. I brought one out, but I don't know where it went. We have some that we dressed up with felt outfits, some that are just plain. These wooden eggs, I got these on Amazon. They're like craft wooden eggs. It was like $12 for $12. Have been one of the coolest things that we've had. We use these for everything. We make nests and we put our eggs in it. We make tall nests and we balance our egg on top. And we usually incorporate lessons about birds or about height and gravity in that. So different ways you can incorporate that. Like I said about bringing things that you wouldn't normally play with outside is so much fun. Here I have just some red string. You can do a lot with that. This came from a lesson about squiggle. There's a whole book called Squiggle. It's all about a red ribbon that a little girl finds. And so we made our own squiggles. We also bring yarn outside. Yarn is great for just wrapping around trees, for making mazes, for making giant webs. Bringing yarn outside is just, it's so much fun. We have also brought out Lots of recyclable materials. That's one of the top favorite forest school activities that we do. We bring recyclable materials outside and we use them to make things, which is great. We make robots, we make cars, so all you really need is save up your plastic coffee cans and bring out some paper and tape and ribbon or string, different things like that, and just lay it all out and have them use their imagination. You can also save up some old cardboard or get some from the grocery store. Cardboard boxes are great. We set them outside. It's really fun when you can take things that you don't have room to do inside and bring it outside where the kids have their imagination can really run wild because they have all this space that they don't normally have access to. So building things outside, like big forts, okay, maybe you do like little living room forts, but I'm talking like major forts here. Same with cardboard boxes. You can make a whole town. Bring paint outside. Honestly, just bring any schoolwork that you do inside. If you can, bring it outside. It's just great to switch it up. So some resources for you. When we play outside, we take a few essential things. I already showed you some of the stuff if we're doing something specific. But we also always have a first aid kit, of course. And in the first aid kit, I bought like a typical one with bandages and stuff like that. But I also do have like a Neosporin, and you could also put bug bite stuff in there, is a great idea as well. Bug spray, sunscreen, also great ideas. I won't show you them. I don't want to be too specific about brands and all that good stuff. We also have snacks in our bag. That can never hurt. And we always have pen and paper. I found my pencil. I can't find I'm sure Mac probably took it out. That's okay. He's allowed to do that. So pen and paper. Nature journaling is a great way to appreciate the things that you're finding. I find that starting out, a lot of families have a hard time with like, okay, we're going to go outside and then what? Just like sit out there, stand out there. No, do something specific. Do a nature scavenger hunt. Those are always fun. Or you can do where usually we shrink down. I go through a whole process of shrinking us down. And go small. Look for all the small things. Look for all the high things. Look for all the big things. Look for all the little things. And then when you find things that you find interesting, take pictures of them, draw pictures of them, take samples if you can without damaging nature, and learn about those things. Which we usually also have a couple little guides with us. This is Backyard Bird Watching for Philadelphia. This has come in handy quite a bit. It has different birds so that we can identify them on the go, and it's nice and thin. It's a good backpack guide. We have a Rocks and Minerals guide from Usborne. This is also good because it's small and you can use it on the go. These we picked up from Target. They're great. On the go birds, backyard bugs, North American wildlife. And one of our favorite, this says take along. I got the big one that it combined a bunch of them in one, so we don't often take this with us. You can get them separated out and then it's a little bit easier. Fun with Nature take along guide. So this is all about mammals, butterflies and moths, trees, leaves and barks, rabbits, squirrels and chipmunks, tracks, scats and signs. That's one of our favorites, is to look for poop and identify where that poop came from. So those are all great things you can find. There's a wide variety. Those are just things that we personally use, but of course there's a wide variety out there. Two other books that I want to recommend if you're looking for activities is A Year of Forest School, Outdoor Play and Skill Building Fun for Every Season. This is a great book. And then there's also a follow-up. Actually, no, that's the follow-up. This is the first one, I think. Play the Forest School Way, Woodland Games, Crafts, and Skills for Adventurous Kids. And some of this focuses on like survival skills, some of it on just basic nature play. but those are both great activities. I mentioned Tinkergarten before. So Tinkergarten, they do have paid classes, and they're still doing that virtually right now, and they're not in person because of COVID. But, and that's great if you want to take advantage of that. However, they do also have do-it-yourself activities on their website, and that is a ton of information available to you for free. And they oftentimes give out ideas too if you follow them on social media. They have lots of great ideas. The Forest School for All, that's another one that is excellent. They have little guides, very reasonably priced. I think they're like $20, $20 to $30 for each season. Same thing. They'll give book recommendations too. I like them. The book recommendations, they're more specific to, like just about leaves and stuff. They don't necessarily tie into the lesson, which is kind of what I prefer. Still a really great resource. And then also Blossom and Root. That is a mom who is also a teacher, and she does homeschool curriculums. But you can either purchase like the nature study, which is fantastic. She also has what is called book seeds, which is, they're like little tiny packets, and they're usually inspired by a book, a nature-based book, and then they have different activities outside and also inside to enhance the learning from that book. And they're very reasonable, usually around $8, and oftentimes she has freebies. She has a winter one up right now, so I would recommend going and taking advantage of that. Speaking of winter, also nature playgrounds. We have 2 great nature playgrounds. If you know of others, please let me know in the comments below. The 2 that we go to very often are in Nolde Forest. They have the Chickadee Playground, and Burke's Nature Center, which is Angelica Creek Park. Fantastic. These are great. They're not your normal plastic playground equipment, which there's nothing wrong with that either. But it's much more risk playing, but in a very safe environment. So logs you can climb on and things like that. So much fun. We love it. Love, love, love both of them. Can't make a trip out there for sure to both. And again, if you know of others, please let me know, because I'm always looking for a good natural playscape. So speaking of winter, I just wanted to mention too, I want you to now, in September, we're starting to get into slightly cooler weather. Start wrapping your head around being out in winter now. Being outdoors does not mean the perfect 50 to 70 degrees sunshine. That's not what we're talking about, although that's great. But I want to encourage you and challenge you to get outside when it's rainy and when it's cool and when it's cold, even if it's not to sled, but just to go outside and play. There's a great book I will also recommend. There's no such thing as bad weather. This is a Norwegian saying. The full saying is, there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. And that was something that was really hard for me to wrap my head around. We would go sledding and we would have, snowball fights and stuff like that. But we didn't typically go outside to play the same way that we would in the summer. And this book and the rest of my little journey here into making nature a priority really helped me to kind of question myself, like, well, why not? Really, the only thing that you need is the proper clothing. So proper clothing for winter, I'll talk about that as we get closer to winter, but layering is going to be super important. And I promise you it can be done, and it can be very comfortable. It doesn't have to be like a miserable experience where you drag yourself out there. And it is just as important, if not more important, in the winter to get outside as it is in the fair weather months. So try to start wrapping your head around that now. What do you think, Bud? Do you like playing in the winter?
I love it.
Yeah, not just in the snow, right? Just like doing other stuff too. Yeah, we love
snowballs. I don't even know how to make a snowball. So.
Oh, yes, you do. You're pretty good at making snowballs. So yeah, so try to wrap your head around not just getting outside in the summer, not being just a fair weather family, but also getting out. It's a loud truck. But also getting out in what we would consider bad weather too. Of course, not unsafe. We can't go out when it's too cold because then we do, we're not telling you to risk. I'm not telling you to risk like frostbite or anything like that, um, or going out in a bad thunderstorm. But summer rain showers or fall rain showers when you can layer and there's rain suits and rain boots. Go out and play and find puddles to jump in and have a good time because that's just as important as getting outside and playing when it's nice out. So if you have any questions for me regarding nature play, if you want to share your experience, things that you enjoy doing outside as a family, any suggestions as far as where you can turn to for other ideas, I would love to hear them. Please leave comments for me or email me. Next week, we're going to be talking about how to get the most out of the online resources that the library has to offer. We're going to talk a lot about that. And thank you for watching and listening. And hopefully, you found a couple little tips to help you. I hope so. Again, yes. So get outside, have fun, do it today. It's actually a great day. It's a little muggy, but it's fantastic. So get outside and maybe bring a book out, go for a hike, try to see who can find the smallest bug. All right. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you next week.
Bye.